before you. Father, you are the original justice of the peace. Father, we come before your throne. Lord, we just want to commit this occasion to you, Lord. Father, you did already ordain this day for it to come to pass. Because, Lord, our country has been crying out for you. And Father, we thank you, Lord, that you have heard the cries of the people. Yes, Father, this peace is nothing else but for everyone to be reminded in this country that, Lord, there is a king, there is a justice system, and that king provides that justice system. Father, we thank you, Lord. We just commit the rest of the program into your hands, Father. Be with us for the rest of this day. In Jesus' most precious and wonderful name. And everyone will agree with me and say, Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Molina. If I may ask you all to keep on standing, and our military band at the back will play our national anthem before we proceed with our program. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Just for our media personnel who are around at the back, we've allocated the space in front for you. So, if anything, if you could come forward. So again, if I may just say this, thank you, everyone, for your attendance this morning. You've taken time out of your busy schedule to be here this morning. This Rule of Law March will be an important fixture in the coming years for the Law Society. And so it comes at a time where a number of issues have arisen affecting rule of law, and you're all quite aware of it. So the first thing I will do now is to invite our President of the Law Society, Mr. Hubert Namani, to come and give his remarks.
Good morning, colleagues, senior members of the bar, members of the legal fraternity, and fellow citizens. Our march today is a commitment to transparency, accountability, and democracy. The fundamental principles that safeguard our nation from tyranny and lawlessness. As lawyers, we stand as guardians of justice, ensuring that power is exercised lawfully and does not erode our democracy and the rights and freedoms of our people. Our profession is not about politics or personal agendas. It's about upholding the legal framework that protects every citizen, regardless of status or influence. Today, we walked in solidarity to remind the nation that the law is the foundation of a just society, and its integrity must never be compromised. Our presence here today is a call to defend the principles that uphold our democracy, ensuring justice, transparency, accountability remain the pillars of our nation. As lawyers, we have sworn to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. Our presence here today is a call to defend the principles that uphold our democracy, ensuring that justice, transparency, and accountability remain the pillars of our nation. We still have deep concerns for the alarming escalation of lawlessness across our nation, which continues to ravage communities. These incidents are not isolated. They are symptomatic of a deeper issue that is eroding the fabric of our society today. The erosion of public safety, the unchecked violence, and the diminishing authority of law enforcement are deeply concerning. It is therefore imperative that state confronts these challenges head-on, for they are a direct threat to the security, stability, and well-being of our nation. The rule of law establishes the rule of law establishes that no one is above the law, ensuring that all actions, whether by government or individuals, are subject to legal scrutiny. However, our democratic safeguards are currently facing unprecedented challenges. Recent legislative developments, including the Counter-Terrorism Act 2024, the National Executive Council Act 2025, and the Constitutional Amendment number 48, Motion of No Confidence Law 2025, threaten to erode the essential checks and balances that uphold our democracy. We are seeing that piece by piece, the pillars of accountability are being dismantled. Laws that once ensured executive transparency, judicial oversight, and parliamentary scrutiny are being replaced with measures that consolidate power, curtail legal challenges, and strangle dissent. Democracy thrives on ability to question the authority and challenge decisions affecting our lives. Yet, with each new decree, we witness an increasing restriction on our right to seek justice, demand accountability, and uphold constitutional principles. The Counter-Terrorism Act 2024 extends beyond its purported purpose of combating terrorism, granting the police force and the Counter-Terrorism Joint Security Task Force immunity from criminal and civil liability. This raises alarming questions. When the very institutions tasked with enforcing the law place themselves above it, who will hold them accountable? History has demonstrated time and again that unchecked power invites abuse without oversight, and specter of human rights violations looms large. Even more concerning is the vague and expansive definition of terrorism within the Act, the advancement of a political, religious, or ideological cause. This creates a perilous landscape for our democracy, opening the door to potential misuse that could silence political dissent, religious expression, and advocacy for social change. Under such provisions, any citizen, activist, journalist, or opposition members could be unjustly labeled a terrorist for merely speaking out against the government policies. Law should be precise instruments of justice, not weapons of oppression. The poorly defined parameters of these laws grant the government arbitrary authority, facilitating targeting of individuals or groups who express dissent. Consequently, laws intended to safeguard public safety and promote fairness may instead stifle personal freedoms and violate human rights. The very essence of justice is compromised when laws are wielded to crush basic rights, freedom of speech, association, and the press. The corrective effects of such legislation are deeply damaging to our democratic foundations. Trust between citizens and the state erodes, fostering a climate in which people hesitate to voice their opinions or engage in political activities for fear of retribution. Political freedoms suppressed are exceedingly difficult to reclaim, as laws crafted to control expression and dissent become embedded in our legal fabric. When laws transmute into tools of oppression, they pose grave threat to democratic values and fundamental rights that underpin a free society. Compounding this new erosion is the new Executive Council Act 2025, which renders NEC decisions non-justiciable. This troubling development means the highest levels of government can make decisions beyond the reach of judicial review, effectively insulating the executive from necessary legal scrutiny. By sidelining the judiciary, a crucial pillar of our democracy, we undermine the vital principle of checks and balances. If citizens lack recourse to challenge executive decisions when their rights are violated, what remains of our democracy? Together, these legal shifts signal a dangerous drift toward authoritarianism. The right to contest government action, seek justice for wrongs, and hold leaders accountable is the heart of the rule of law. Allowing this trend to persist unchecked could reduce our democracy to mere rhetoric. As lawyers, we stand as guardians of justice, ensuring that powers is exercised lawfully and does not erode our democracy or the rights and freedoms of our people. Our profession is not about politics or personal agendas. It's about upholding the legal framework that protects every citizen, regardless of status or influence. Colleagues, our democracy was built on the dreams of men who believed in justice, fairness, and the rule of law. Our Constitution, our national goals and directive principles, they were not just words on paper. They were a call to action, a commitment to a just and free society. We owe it to ourselves and future generations to defend these principles. Our nation is at a critical juncture where criminal behavior is increasingly conducted with impunity. Our people face human rights violations daily. Women, children, persons with disabilities, and the most vulnerable among us continue to suffer from injustice, violence, and systematic neglect. Our communities need education and awareness on their rights and responsibilities. The state of human rights in Papua New Guinea remains concerning. Violence, threats, gender-based violence, corruption, environmental destruction, state abuse, and community conflicts remain prevalent. International human rights bodies have consistently rated Papua New Guinea below average in the protection of civil liberties and political freedoms. This is not the legacy we want for our country, not the future we want for our children. 50 years ago, our nation made a solemn promise to protect the rights and freedoms of our citizens. These promises were enshrined in our Constitution, yet we have struggled and at times failed to uphold them. While some progress has been made in strengthening human rights protection through laws and policies, more needs to be done. Words alone are not enough. We need action. We need institutions that will serve as platforms for education, awareness, and advocacy, empowering our people to be responsible, respectful, and law-abiding citizens, and also provide inexpensive ways to redress human rights violations. If there is ever a moment to demonstrate our maturity as a nation, it is now, our 50th year of independence. A glaring example of our systematic failure is the deeply flawed electoral process, which undermines our democracy at its core. Widespread irregularities, violence, compromised integrity have eroded public trust, making electoral reforms essential to restore faith in our democratic institutions and governance. It's a shame that today there is no real progress to reform our electoral process. The legitimacy of any government depends on free and fair elections, Yet we continue to operate under a broken system. Our national priorities seem increasingly misaligned, with short-term political gains overshadowing the long-term well-being of our citizens. Our ongoing concerns are heightened by the alarming possibility that PNG is on the brink of being grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force. This could have significant consequences on our international reputation, trade relationships, and financial stability. As a nation, we must urgently address these concerns and take decisive actions to strengthen our financial and legal systems. As we stand together today, we call for greater accountability, transparency, and reform. We are equally concerned with the transparency of public expenditure. There must be full transparency in the use of state funds to ensure accountability and public trust. The government must not mix its priorities. While development and economic growth are vital, they cannot come at the expense of law and order. The current wave of lawlessness is a stark reminder that without security and stability, progress is impossible. Law and order must be key priority, and it must be adequately resourced. We cannot allow crime and impunity to undermine the very fabric of our society. The rule of law will not defend itself. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. When we do not speak up against corruption, we enable it. When we ignore electoral fraud, we invite dictatorship. When we allow criminals to operate without fear of consequences, we weaken our country. The rule of law in Papua New Guinea is not just a domestic issue. It is a concern for the region and the Commonwealth. Injustice here is a threat to justice everywhere. Colleagues, let me call us to action. The threats to our democracy and the rule of law are clear, but they are not irreversible. As lawyers and as citizens, we have both a duty and opportunity to push back against these encroachments on our constitutional freedoms. We must act with urgency and resolve. Continue to advocate for judicial independence and constitutional integrity. The judiciary is the last line of defense against abuse of power. We must support and defend its independence, ensuring that courts remain free from political interference and continue to serve as impartial arbiters of justice. If the judiciary is weakened, the very foundation of our democracy crumbles. Challenge unconstitutional laws and through legal avenues. Colleagues, the courts remain a powerful tool for safeguarding the rule of law. We must not allow unconstitutional legislation to go unchallenged. Through judicial review and constitutional petitions, we must put these laws to the test and demand that they be struck down if they violate our fundamental rights. The legal profession must take the lead in mounting strong and well-founded legal challenges against laws that undermine democracy and human rights. Educate and engage with the public. The greatest threat to democracy is uninformed citizenry. Many of our people are unaware of legal and constitutional implications of these changes. It is our duty to bridge this knowledge gap, to explain what is at stake, and to ensure that every Papua New Guinean understands their rights. Public awareness and civic engagement are key to holding leaders accountable and preventing further erosion of our democratic institutions. We cannot afford to be complacent. If we do not act now, we risk a future where power is concentrated in the hands of a few, shielded from scrutiny, and unaccountable to the people. The time to stand up for the rule of law is now. Our country stands at crossroads. The choices we make today will determine whether we uphold democracy or allow it to wither under unchecked authority. We march today not in defiance, but in duty, to our profession, to our constitution, and to our nation. Let this be the beginning of a renewed commitment to the rule of law. Colleagues, let me remind us again, as we approach our 50 years of independence, we must recognize that the future of Papua New Guinea is not just in the hands of politicians. It is in our hands. We must stand for the principles that built this nation. We must defend our democracy. We must uphold justice. Our people deserve better. The rule of law must prevail. Defend democracy, uphold justice. Thank you.
Thank you, President Namani. Our second speaker now will be Mr. David Denniston. He is the council member of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association representative of Papua New Guinea. So I welcome Mr. Denniston to share his remarks.
Thank you, Justin. Good morning, President, council members, and fellow bar members. It's good to be here again, and full credit to Hubert and the Law Society for making this happen. An event still new here in Papua New Guinea, but common throughout the Commonwealth when required by our Commonwealth brothers and sisters. The CLA stands with the PNG Law Society and its advocacy efforts to uphold and promote the rule of law in PNG, and we have issued statements in support, two of them, one early this year, one late last year, and we condemn attempts to muzzle and thwart the Law Society and the physical threats towards its president. And now the Law Society is supporting the CLA and the rule of law across the Commonwealth. It has become an institutional member of the Commonwealth, and the President, Secretariat and all councillors will now have access to all our educational materials and a large network of law firms, law societies, academics and individuals, all of who will support us if we ask. Hubert has been given key presentation spots at our conference in Malta next week, which includes addressing all Commonwealth bar leaders in a closed workshop, and a bar statement will follow that. Through that event, Hubert will make extraordinary contacts around the Commonwealth who have been on the same journey, whose journeys are improving or declining. Some are starting and some are advanced. He will also be addressing the entire conference on the state of rule and law in the South Pacific, including Papua New Guinea. So like the PNG Centre of Judicial Excellence right here, the Law Society is becoming a regional and Commonwealth leader, and we have introduced the Law Society to Law Asia, and upon our request, they and the South Pacific Law Association have issued statements in support of the Law Society's advocacy. There is a lot of support available to PNG across the Commonwealth and beyond if it engages. Coming back to the rule of law, last year I said the rule of law is like oxygen, most noticed in its absence. Sadly, the air seems a little thinner this year, but it doesn't have to be this way. Of the 42 Commonwealth countries measured by the World Justice Project's Rule of Law Index, over half have improved their rule of law index ranking this year. And the World Justice Project are CLA partners, and we're trying to get them into PNG to get a base case, do a base study and include us in the index so we get an evidentiary base from which to improve. Because with improved rule of law comes improved prosperity, which PNG needs. Hubert's talked about the human rights case for the rule of law, and that's just as important as he said, but also unless we improve our prosperity, there's little we can do. So there's no point just talking about the rule of law. We must explain what it means. Everyone is talking about the rule of law these days. It's thanks to Hubert and the Law Society. Now it's mentioned in most statements, but no one says what it means and what the impediments are and what improved rule of law can bring. So I will touch on the business case for the rule of law, because business provides the employment and the tax space by which Papua New Guinea can care for, educate, protect its people, and allows the people to vote. The 2025 PNG Business Advantage Westpac Bank 100 CEO survey released on the 19th of March says the number one impediment to business in Papua New Guinea is foreign exchange. Insufficient foreign exchange, though, is due to a poor balance of trade due to an unattractive business environment caused by the next most significant impediments to business. So the reason we have not enough available foreign exchange is because of the other impediments that the survey has ranked. And this is in order of their impediment to Papua New Guinea. That's security, law and order, unreliable utilities, lack of government capacity, regulatory uncertainty, shortage of skills and expertise, inflation and corruption. 100 leading businesses in Papua New Guinea, the 100 biggest businesses, this is what they have said. And there's plenty of evidence out there to show an improvement in the rule of law improves the underlying economic base of a country. These impediments are largely a result of an absence of the rule of law, particularly the allocation of resources and an independent administrative system. I'll say that again, an independent administrative system. We all went to law school, we all know what that means. So what is the role of lawyers in the business case for the rule of law? Lawyers advise business and government, and by knowing the law and applying it impartially, we facilitate economic prosperity and the rule of law. Last year, I quoted Her Majesty the Queen when she said in this very location in 1974, 24 February, when she opened the current law courts, the people of Papua New Guinea, she said, are about to set out upon a great adventure of independence, and if they are to be successful in it, it is essential that the rule of law shall grow and flourish. Experience shows that this is hard to establish and that great vigilance is necessary to maintain it. This year, we expect the late Queen's son, King Charles, or her grandson, Prince William, to officially open the new law courts behind us, and the Queen's words then are as prescient then as they are today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our third speaker will be the President of the PNG Women's Lawyers Association, Mrs. Lana Saigo.
Good morning. I just heard someone say good morning, Lana. Thank you. Distinguished guests, President, Council members, Senior Counsel that have walked before us, thank you for making this time to come here. Okay, I also thank you, PNG Law Society, for giving me the honour to speak here. This isn't easy for me because it's pardon me if I get emotional on this. Walking this way made me reflect on exactly how much of a minority I am. A minority that I'm a woman, a minority that I am a Papua New Guinean woman, a minority that I'm a Papua New Guinean woman with a profession, and a profession that can make waves. Without fear or favour, malice or ill will. Can anyone tell me where that's from? Who said those words? They're not mine, but they've been said over the years. And if you really want to find out, just pull out your phone and Google it. That's what everyone seems to be doing now. I'm not going to go on the context of rule of law, but I'm going to say this, that if we continue to uphold the rule of law, if we continue to fight, each and every one of us, we're wearing a robe that we earned, a robe that we can use as armor to defend the underdog. It shouldn't just be about our own livelihood. It should be about, we're here to serve. And that's what we should be looking at, serving. The fact that when we're women, as we're working here, we are 0.0001% of the population that could actually have 10 minutes walking in freedom. But we were protected. We're protected by our families. We're able to be protected by the police escorts. A number of us continue to walk the streets in fear. Our children continue to live in fear. I can go with the late Martin Luther King and say I have a dream, but it's true, I do have a dream, without sounding pretentious, but yes, that one day possibly my daughter or my son could walk hand in hand down the street without fearing that they will be picked out because of where they're from, or because what they're wearing, or because people know who their parents are, or because they're of a different educational level. Each and every one of us have children, and the fear is that, will they be able to walk? Will they be able to stand without fear or favor, malice or ill will? Going forward, I'd like to challenge each and every one of you that you wear this robe for a purpose, that you wear it to serve. And as we continue to move forward, that we speak with grace and mercy and without malice or ill will. Congratulations to each and every one of you for making this walk. I hope that you continue to stand for not just the rule of law, but for the integrity of our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. We are going to have probably 3 more speakers, but just to advise those lawyers who haven't got their food and drink tickets, please see Margaret, the PNG Law Society staff at the back in the uniforms. Pick that up later. We'll be having that after this proceeding. But if I might now invite one of our senior members of our profession, Dr. Ben Lomai, if you could come and share your remarks with us.
President of the Law Society, Mr. Herbert Namani, Council of the PNG Law Society, members of the legal profession, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. I titled this speech, Rule of Law. Is it a policy for Papua New Guinea? In PNG, it has come to a point where most of the people are talking about the rule of law, whether there exists a real rule of law at all in this country. With recent issues such as the arbitrary decision by the national government, brutality by the police, the ineffectiveness of the Ombudsman Commission, the inequality in the distribution of the country's wealth, uprising in the law and order issue, inability to protect human rights of vulnerable people, compromise and delayed judgment by the judiciary, and many more. One wonders whether there is really, in fact, in existence a rule of law here in this country. And these combined prevailing issues present a real challenge to the life of the citizens and residents in the various aspects of the life in this country. The vulnerability of people living in a highly corrupt country with appalling law and order problems makes life more untenable and unbearable. Noting that little hope is there for their future and the future of their generation. According to the World Justice Project Report 2024, countries such as Congo, Nicaragua, Myanmar, Haiti, Afghanistan, Cambodia, and Venezuela are very weak in terms of the rule of law. The 2024 World Justice Project Indexes evaluates 142 countries and their jurisdiction around the world. For the 7 years in a row, the rule of law has declined in most countries. Now, there appears to be virtually no respect for fellow human beings because the level of morality has gone to the lowest when it comes to discerning between what is right and what is wrong and what is good and what is bad. We've just lost thoughts of that. We can't even differentiate between what is wrong and what is right, and what is good and what is bad. Although Papua New Guinea was not featured in the World Justice Project in the report in 2024, there is presumed that Papua New Guinea is also among the weakest in upholding the rule of law in this country. This is inevitable consequences because there is inevitable consequence of law and order when it comes to upholding the rule of law in the country. There is consequence of law and order. Arbitrary decision by governments, unequal distribution of country's wealth, human rights abuses, police brutality, delayed and compromised legal processes. It can be seen everywhere on a daily basis. Most times there is repeated instances of such happenings. But we fail to prevent or provide resolution to the ongoing legal, political, social, and administrative issues faced by this country. Having accepted general proposition that Papua New Guinea is the weakest in terms of the rule of law, what can we, as a professional legal body, or how can we, as a professional legal body, assist to address the weaknesses of the rule of law in this country? In this discourse, I have proposed two things. Sometimes we talk about, or even present papers, but we never present some solutions. In fact, at least some solutions to address the problem. So this morning I propose two things for what we as a Papua New Guinea lawyers should do, as a ably competent, capable lawyers in the country should do. And there's two things that I picked up. Firstly is that I want the PNG Law Society to be part of the Section 19 Supreme Court reference authorities. And secondly is that I want the Law Society to be one of the prosecuting authority under Section 176 and 88 of the Constitution and Section 616 of the Criminal Code. In ensuing this discussion, I will show you how that can be made possible if we all have to work together to try and pursue them. Two options that I put forward to this professional body. But firstly, I want to look at the rule of law. As David says, we all talk about the rule of law, but what does it mean to us, really, personally and generally? Well, the rule of law is a political and legal ideal, is that all people and institutions within a country, state, and communities are accountable to the same law, including the lawmakers, the government officials, the judges, and everybody else. It is sometimes stated simply as no one is above the law, or all are equal before the law. And the rule of law can be contextualized in the following realism, and that is an attitude or practice of accepting a situation as it is and being prepared to deal with it accordingly. First of all, accountability. We talked about accountability. Everyone, including those in position of power, must follow the law and be held accountable for their action. If you do something wrong, you should be held accountable to your wrongs. Simple as that. Accountability is a very important aspect in the rule of law. Secondly, equity before the law. Everyone is treated the same under the law regardless of their status or position. Does that ring the bell here in PNG? The little people are complaining that there are two sets of law, one for the big people and one for the small people. Are we treated equally before the law? Well, that's one of the principles of the rule of law. Transparency and predictability. Law should be clear, accessible, and known to the public, allowing people to understand their rights and obligations. Some time ago, a lot of Papua New Guineans were illiterate with the law. But gradually, as time goes by, they now tend to try and understand what is their rights under the law. But for us as lawyers, this is what we're coming to assist this kind of people. So we must have transparency and predictability in the law. The law must have accessible to the people. The law must be known to the public, not just doing some at the back deal and pass a law and then tell the people, look, we've already passed the law. That's not the way it should be. The rule of law promotes that there has to be a transparency and predictability in the law itself. Independent judiciary. There should be an impartial and independent court system to ensure fair and unbiased legal processes. There has been a lot of issues going on around here in terms of the judiciary. We are all members of the profession, and we are always here in court all the time. And some of you are probably working as a solicitor in the office, but we're all part of that judiciary, where if we have problems, we can seek redress here. But we must know that the judiciary must be independent, okay? It should not be subject to any whims or subject to some directions from some people. It should not compromise itself. It must stand on its own as an independent body, because it's, as the president said, the last bastion. You see, that's the only place where we can come in and seek, redress here in court. Protection of fundamental rights. The rule of law helps safeguard human rights and freedom. Again, if we understand what it is, then it helps us to appreciate human rights. We refrain from abusing human rights because we know that what we're doing is wrong. Effective dispute resolution. There should be mechanism for resolving legal dispute fairly and efficiently. Well, court is the last resort. Many times we try to operate outside, but sometimes it doesn't work. So we have to come to court to try and resolve our disputes. And this is part of the idea of the rule of law. You have to have an effective dispute resolution. And the enforcement of law. Law should be enforced consistently and effectively, ensuring that everyone is subject to the same rules. Yeah. Sometimes we ambush the other laws. Does that ring a bell? We have to ensure that, if we're coming into court, we must always discuss the issue and then come to court. That's part of the rule of law. If we can't do it ourselves, then we can't expect other people outside to do it. It's a big challenge for us as a professional legal body. We must always maintain that standard all the time. The term rule of law is closely related to constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is a compound of ideas, attitudes, and patterns of behavior, elaborating the principle that authority of government derives from and is limited by a body of fundamental law. Meaning that if there is any arbitrary decisions that ought to have made by the national government, that would be against the principle of constitutionalism, because their powers are limited under the law. Arbitrary arrest is limited by the rule of law, the concept of the rule of law, because it equates to constitutionalism. William H. Newcomb, a co-founder and CEO of World Justice Project, said, "The rule of law is the foundation for healthy communities of justice, opportunity, and peace. No matter who we are, where we live, the rule of law affects us all. It is the foundation for community of justice, opportunity, and peace, underpinning development, accountable government, and respect for fundamental rights." Research shows that the rule of law correlates to a higher economic growth, greater peace, and more education, and improved health outcomes. I think David had just touched on that this morning in terms of the economics as prescribed by the rule of law. If our rule of law is effective and strong, you find that our economy will grow. So what does it mean to PNG in terms of the rule of law? Well, in PNG, the rule of law is a fundamental principle, ensuring that everyone, including government, is subject to and accountable under the law, with the key elements including the right to life, freedom from inhuman treatment, and the protection of law. And I list the rights and freedom. You all know as lawyers, the right to life, freedom from inhuman treatment, protection of law, etc., etc. Daisy, an English commentator, pointed out three elements that were essential to the rule of law. He associated the rule of law with individual freedom. Two elements that are important for us are, first of all, legality. Regular law should govern the conduct of everyone. An example is that someone cannot be punished for something where there is no law at that time the act or omission was committed. The idea is inserted in Section 37 of the PNG Constitution, entitled Protection of the Law. Simply means that if someone is chewing bill nut, you can charge him because there is no law prescribed for that, right? And next is the impartiality. Everyone or everybody is subject to the same law. Daisy explained in this way, not only that no man is above the law, but that every man, whether his rank or condition, is subject to the ordinary law of the realm. This may be hard for us in Papua New Guinea, where we have this big man mentality, right? Sometimes when we have something that is done by a so-called big man, we tend to exonerate him and say that a maski and big man to masya, so we just let him go like that, right? It's very hard when we try to apply the rule of law in our context. But the idea of the equalities endorses under Section 55 of the Constitution. So having said all these things, what is our duty here? What is our bid? To try and assist in upholding the rule of law in this country. Everyone has got a bid. NRL has got a bid. PNG has got a bid for NRL. And they were successful, right? So what is our bid as a professional body in this country? Well, as you will appreciate, PNG Law Society represents a professional body of legally trained minds in this country. Under the Lawyers Act, it has obligation to uphold and responsibility to carry out in contemplation of ensuring that justice must prevail according to law. Although PNG Law Society can assist the public in a general way, there are limitations to some extent it cannot pursue on behalf of the general populace. There are two things that the PNG Law Society can do if it wants to vigorously pursue issues affecting the rule of law in this country. First is that the PNG Law Society can apply for a bid as one of the authorities under Section 19 of the Constitution. And the next is that it can also seek the status to be a prosecuting authority in this country. I just want to have a look at those two and then I'll sit down. First of all, how can we become a Section 19 authority? Currently, there are only 10 authorities that are required under Section 19 of the Constitution to pursue a Section 19 Supreme Court reference. Out of the 10, the most effective one used to be the Ombudsman Commission. However, as of late, the Ombudsman Commission has secured less referrals to the Chief Justice. So in other words, as you all know, the Ombudsman Commission has now lacking in his responsibility to pursue particularly leaders in terms of the members of parliament and as well as the CEO of governmental agencies. It seems to be very weak in terms of investigation and referral to the public prosecutor and then to the Chief Justice. So the Ombudsman Commission has lately, because of its ineffectiveness, has created a vacuum for leaders and chief executive officers of responsible government agency to escape referrals, prosecution, and conviction. The Parliament, the Speaker, and the Head of State are all weak when it comes to issues regarding unilateral and arbitrary decision of the national government. They may have conflict of interest which neutralizes the support to uphold the rule of law. I mean, you can read it every day. And I'm not plugging something new here, right? Unilateral arbitrary decision by the national government. We're talking about Section 145, no confidence. We're talking about the anti-corruption, and we're talking about decisions that are made. For example, awarding contracts. These are unilateral decisions. These are arbitrary decisions, and it runs counter against constitutionalism, which is basically the fundamentals of the rule of law. But they are ineffective. The Parliament, the Speaker, and the Head of State, they can rise up and complain or challenge the decision by the national government. The opposition has of recent filed a Section 45 no confidence, Section 19 Supreme Court reference. The matter is currently in court. Earlier, they have filed several of such applications. You can just go through the law reports and check it out yourself. The provincial government and local level government never really pursue constitutional reference unless it affects the interests. There's an example of the election of the ward councillors and the presidents. One is directly by the people, especially the president. One is directly by the people and another by their chambers, members who have won and constitute a chambers. This is not a decision that is right, in my view. You're complicating the situation, bringing the country to ransom, having the other countries doing one thing and another country doing the other thing. This is arbitrary decision. And so the provincial and local level government are now pursuing that issue in court. But they rarely do in terms of the general Supreme Court reference application, because where it affects their interest, that's where they're coming. But where it doesn't affect their interest, they don't. And the Constitutional and Law Reform Commission has been doing something as well. I don't have the data as to suggest whether or not they're effective when it comes to promoting and upholding the rule of law. Surprisingly, some of our members in this profession are directly working with these authorities, and yet there is evidence that our rule of law is weak and is gradually declining in this country. For For example, issues regarding decisions made arbitrarily by the national government could not be challenged by these authorities. We just have a legislation that was passed to make all the decision policy decision, not legal decision. And you all know as lawyers that you can't challenge the policy decision in court. It doesn't have the force of law. But now they've already given the force of law. That whatever their decision is, you can challenge it. It is now non-justiciable. So these are arbitrary decisions by the national government. And again, like I pointed out, the fact that some of our members of our profession are directly working with these authorities. Decision on awarding of contracts to cronies, friends, and relatives are directly impugns on the rule of law because it bridges the Constitution and legislation, yet it is allowed to pass through without challenge. In this context, PNG Law Society can play a significant role. It becomes one of the authorities under Section 19. It has the legal capacity in terms of manpower resources and the ability as body of able lawyers to conduct legal research and carry out thorough investigation for the purpose of pursuing a constitutional reference with speed and agility. We know in some authorities maybe they're lacking capacity. Maybe not a lot of lawyers are working with them. That we understand. We can't just simply put the blame on them. Yeah. But as lawyers, we have a lot of brains here, very capable brain, very competent, highly trained. Why can't we be used as one of the authorities under the Section 19 Supreme Court reference? For this reason, I urge the PNG Law Society to discuss with the Attorney General, Honorable Pila Niniga, and seek a constitutional amendment to Section 19 Constitution and include PNG Law Society as one of the authorities. And that way we can be able to involve ourselves effectively in trying to uphold the rule of law in this country. If there is any issues that the other authorities cannot pursue, the Law Society is there. They can jump in and pursue that. The next is to have the Law Society as a prosecuting authority under Section 176 and Section 616 of the Criminal Code. The establishment of the Public Prosecutor Office is provided for under Section 176 of the Constitution. Its function is stated under Section 177. It includes controlling the exercise and performance of the prosecution function. So their job basically is to control the exercise and performance of the prosecution function and bring or decline proceedings under the Leadership Code for misconduct in office, prosecuting indictable offense, etc. It also has the power of ex officio to present indictment where it is of the opinion that there is sufficient evidence to prosecute, however was declined by the police prosecution. The police is established under Section 188 of the Constitution. The police force is subject to the control of the National Executive Council through the Minister for Police, currently Honorable Sherma Lilly. And it looks after the policy matters. So the minister looks after the policy matters. But for operational matters, it comes under the police commissioner, right? There was a bit of an issue going on, but I think three Supreme Court cases have already confirmed that the minister can't encroach into the operational business of the police force. So the police force primary function are to uphold the Constitution and acts of Parliament by maintaining and preserving peace and good order in the country, enforcing laws in an impartial and objective manner, and lay, prosecute, and withdraw charges in respect of offences. We have Section 616 of the Criminal Code provides for options for private criminal prosecution apart from the police, but you have to seek leave from the National Court. And I think there is some deposits that you got to make in order to take up private criminal briefs under Section 616 of the Criminal Code. And as we all know, that there has been a decline in the performances of the police prosecutors, securing referrals from criminal courts to the National Court. There may be a lot of reason attributed to low performances. However, even the obvious case with sufficient evidence got thrown out, obviously it is a very serious cause for concern. And indeed, we live in an uncertain world where different factors play their cards, but where the evidence of abundance of corruption prevail in a society, one wonders whether there is in fact a rule of law exists or at all. It is with this profound concern that I'm proposing somewhat the idea for the PNG Law Society to be the prosecuting authorities, one of the prosecuting authorities to have similar powers like the police prosecution section and the public prosecutor. The prosecuting arm of the PNG Law Society should operate independently, but strictly under the supervision of the PNG Law Society. It should be strictly devoid of any political and relational interference. Consequently, it should have powers similar to the Ombudsman Commission, the police force insofar as prosecution is concerned, and the office of the public prosecutor. In conclusion, these ideas can be discussed with the Attorney General, Constitutional Law Reform Commission, and other stakeholders for a possible reform. Given the current situation in Papua New Guinea, it seems there is a general resentment amongst the populace regarding the general decline in the performances of the police force, Ombudsman Commission, ICAC, and other governmental agencies that have failed miserably in protecting the interests of the citizens and residents of this country. PNG, through the Office of the President and its Council, and as well as the support from these very competent, professionally great legal minds, we can assist our people and restore confidence in the rule of law in Papua New Guinea. Let us not be amongst the lowest countries with a weak rule of law, but Papua New Guinea should strive for the best by upholding the rule of law for its people. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lomai. Before I proceed to call our two last speakers, I just want to make two announcements. Number one, after this proceeding, we have some refreshments there, lunch for you all, so we can do that after. Second point is, I'd like to mention a couple of senior lawyers and acknowledge their presence. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our former public prosecutor, Mr. Pondros Kalawin. Thank you very much for attending. I'd also like to extend our thank you to Mr. Nemo Yalo, former acting judge of our National Supreme Court, who's also present. I'd also like to extend an acknowledgement to Mr. Ian Algeria, who's sitting right at the back there. Thank you very much, sir, for being present. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of our former Attorney General and senior member of our bar, Mr. Alfred Manasseh, who's sitting to my left here. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Norbert Kubak, who's sitting right in front here. Sir, thank you for coming. Mr. Paul Harricknen, who's sitting next to him. Thank you, sir, as well. Mr. Goya Gileng, who's sitting on this side as well. And also our former Solicitor General and now current Acting Secretary for the Papua New Guinea Law Society, Mr. Tanuwasa Tauvasa. So thank you all for coming. Without further ado, if I may call our second last speaker, Mr. Norbert Kuberg, to come forward, please. Thank you. Sorry, just one last acknowledgement. I forgot to acknowledge the presence of our National Judicial Services Secretary, Mr. Nicodemus Mosoro. Thank you, sir, for being here as well.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, SOC, President of the PNG Law Society, President of our female colleagues, Acting Secretary of the PNG Law Society, Mr. Tanuwasa Tauvasa, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and honored guests. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today during this crucial moment. I stand before you not only as a lawyer, but also as a citizen who believes in the foundation principles of our democracy. Principles that are under threat and principles that we must defend with unwavering resolve. The first 11 words in the preamble of our great homegrown constitutions are, "We the people of Papua New Guinea, united in one nation." A most fitting pronouncement of the spirit of today's occasion. Moments ago, we concluded a walk that we took together, not as individuals, not as members of separate tribes or provinces, but as members of an honorable profession, sworn to upholding only but one law, the law that which applies to everyone, regardless of where on the social ladder one may be stationed. Indeed, we walked shoulder to shoulder as one people, one nation, united under the promise of justice and democracy. So our march this morning is not a protest. It is a reaffirmation of the essence of democratic participation. It is a necessary expression of our inalienable right and duty to peacefully challenge policies, actions, and decisions that threaten our collective well-being. May we be reminded then that the democracy of our beloved country thrives when people stand up and say, "We will not accept injustice. We will not accept oppression. We will not remain silent in the face of wrongdoing." As a member of an honorable profession, I am deeply concerned when I see actions that undermine the integrity of our legal system. The law must be an instrument of justice, not a tool for the powerful to manipulate for their own gain. When that balance is lost, when the law is used to serve the few instead of the many, we all lose. So it is the role of every lawyer, every citizen, and every institution that believes in justice to stand firm and united in defending the integrity of the law. It is important to acknowledge also that defending democracy and justice is never an easy task. It requires courage. It requires sacrifice. It means holding ourselves and our leaders accountable, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is even when sorry, even when it is inconvenient. But that is the price of freedom. That is the price of a society that values equality and fairness. If there be any doubt as to the merit of today's march, I am firmly of the view that I cannot conceive of anything more democratic than expression of the people's will. I cannot conceive of anything more just than fighting for equality, fairness, and for the protection of the vulnerable. We are here in unity to reaffirm that we are steadfast in our resolve to ensuring that those values afforded to citizens of our great constitutional democracy are forever protected. On the back of recent events that have shaken the bedrock of our Constitution, I urge those in position of power to listen. Listen to the people who are speaking up. Listen to the voices that have been silenced for far too long. Understand that the desire for democracy and justice is not radical, it is fundamental. It is what makes us who we are, and it is what will guide us towards a better and more just future. On that note, may we be reminded that the law is a tool, but it is not the only measure of justice. True justice is found in the hearts of people, those we find on the streets, who speak truth to power and who demand a government that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. In conclusion, I stand with all of you today in defense of democracy and the rule of law. I stand with those who refuse to be silenced, with those who fight for justice, and with those who believe that together we can create a society where the law is truly an instrument of fairness and equality. It is my fervent hope that in every single one of the next 50 years and beyond, the next generation of FT members of our honorable calling will march on in perpetuity, in resounding affirmation of the values that will be theirs and their children's. Stand strong, stand together, stand for justice, unity, and democracy. May God bless Papua New Guinea, and may justice prevail. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Mr. Kubak. Our second last speaker will be another senior member of our bar, Mr. Harricknen. Thank you, sir.
Good day, everyone. I first of all want to commend and thank President Namani, the Law Society Council, and our colleagues for this time. This is the second March for the Rule of Law, which I have personally been happy to be part of. I'm a lawyer as well as I run an organization. I'm the president of Catholic Professional Society, which as a faith-based organization, we also see things in the light of our faith. And what I will share with you is reflective of us as church in the society as we see. And for me, this time, given the state of our country, which many of you have already spoken, I think we as lawyers and those in responsible positions of the rule of law, this is the time we should have spotlight on ourselves. Put spotlight on ourselves. It is in a way an indictment of what we are doing, how much we are doing, to be a light and a voice of the rule of law. So I want to commend the Law Society in the recent past has stood up to be that light and the voice on rule of law. Because that's our business. That's our core function. Whether we are in the public sector, whether we are in a private sector, I want to believe that we are all here representing public and private. So this must be a moment where we also have to ask ourselves how much we are doing in the area of rule of law. The state of our nation, which is littered with so much political uncertainties, violence, killings, unemployment, corruption, broken public systems and processes, and of course, the broken criminal justice system, so much is at stake, and the list is endless. State agencies and authorities responsible for the enforcement of the rule of law have to be called out. And I want to do that. The Law Society, as well as we lawyers, as well as those institutions and organizations, have to be called out. Spotlight has to be on us. Silence is deafening from the Ombudsman Commission, the Independent Commission Against Corruption, Police Commissioner, the Fraud Squad, and the Public Prosecutor's Office. The OC, the ICAC, police have wide powers within the areas of their responsibilities. These are constitutional offices of the people, not of the politicians. These are constitutional offices of the people, for the people, not the politicians and the public servants. They have a duty to protect and defend the people for wrongs and attacks against our people. The OC deals with matters of leadership wrongs. The police, ICAC, and public prosecutor deal with criminal matters. Do not confuse them and come up with excuses in not enforcing the laws. We must remind ourselves that the leadership code is a moral code, not a criminal code. I don't think our founding fathers made a mistake. We do not need evidence or much of evidence for leaders to step down from office when their conduct amounts to misconduct and the actions or lack of calls the public office or the officer's integrity and reputation into question. These leaders do not have to wait for evidence to do that. The OC and ICAC should already be busy these days. I thought there's so much to be busy. I don't see that busyness in these offices. Their silence, as if there are no cases, already raise questions in the people's minds. Are they waiting for formal complaints to undertake investigations? Do they not have powers to act on their own initiative? I bet they do. We need leadership of the OC and the government authorized under Section 19 of the Constitution to start challenging the Cybercrimes Act, the Anti-Terrorism Act, the National Pandemic Act of 2020. I remind us that this act, we have lost a lot, millions, and this is unaccounted for. And it has caught on the powers of the Parliamentary Committee, Public Parliamentary Committee, the Auditor General. These are constitutional matters, and it should be taken up in court. The constitutional amendment to declare PNG a Christian state, there is a constitutional issue hanging there. Now, I held a news conference, and one of the media personnel asked me, if nothing happens, is the Catholic professors prepared to take up the constitutional reference or challenge it in court? And I quickly responded that I'm not here to clean up somebody's mess. And besides, we have people's offices responsible to do that. Where is the Ombudsman Commission? Where is the public solicitor? Public prosecutor? These are the people's offices who should take up matters of constitutional interest. Not for private citizens who don't have the capacity, financial, to try and struggle to mobilize a constitutional challenge. I think our founding fathers knew that our people need help, and so they put in place these institutions for the people, to serve the people, to protect the people, to defend the people. And that's what's lacking for us. The constitutional amendment to Section 145 on the vote of no confidence, these are anti-people and are meant to protect those in power. These laws need to be challenged. These law enforcement agencies and public servants cannot allow politicians to place rings around their necks or silence them from doing their duty. They are failing their duty to the people they took oath to serve. May I remind us that we are in times when we need heroes and patriots for our nation and people. If a public servant or an officer has to lose his or her job for standing up for the cause of what is right thing to do, it is time. May God bless us all in our profession and in where we work in government and in the private sector, and we still continue to stand up and voice and be the light for the rule of law in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. I would like now to call another senior member of our bar to come and share a few remarks as well. Mr. Goya Gileng.
Good day, everybody. It's been a long day. I actually did not prepare anything to say much, but because I've been called upon, I will not put us all down. Let me just say a few things. You know, this country belongs to ours. It is our country. The institutions that the constitutional democracy is guided by the constitution that we have. Our forefathers, imagine, they were not highly educated as we are, but they put that constitution in place that will guide the parameters of our society going forward. Great thinkers. In 1975, and prior to that, they came up with this consultative process. The constitution was not born out of inheritance from other jurisdictions, developed jurisdictions. Great thinkers like Father John Momis, Senator Rokobi, John L. Carey, Ignatius Kilake, Seppo Lapun. Those are people, you know, the others came together as Papua New Guineans to put together a country of different 800 plus different cultural perspectives coming together as a nation. they create this great, the provincial government system as a decentralization so that the people can be able to govern themselves in their respective provinces, like the federal society, the government system that we have in other countries like Australia. Look at them. The federal government is not restricting them. It is allowing them to govern and compete against the 6 states or 7 states. And in the United States, they're not restricting. They're allowing them to flourish. They look at the great institutions that they can govern as a federal institution, but those states, they give them powers to breathe and do things on their own so that they can save and facilitate. Because a man from Milne Bay cannot go up to Simbu, where I come from. I'm a Papua New Guinean. But you can't go up there, try to do the things that the Chimbus, in the cultural perspective do, or into Civic, or into West New Britain. We come from, different cultural settings, but we are governed by the fundamental pillars. That's the constitution of this country. So we must not willy-nilly continue to tamper with the constitution of this country. People, we come and go. We have our space and moment in time. We come and go. In the book of Genesis, if you read it, before in the past, the people during the biblical days, they lived beyond 500-600. But because of the indiscretion, it reduces the Lord reduces the lifespan down to 120. We can only live up to 120. Very few do that. So in your space and time, what do you do? What do you do is the legacy that you leave behind. You can have so many cars, so much money in your account, but that is only a decoration of the moment of time and space that you have now. You're not going to take it with you. It is what the legacy that you leave behind, and you and I. And I want to take this moment to thank our president, Hubert Namani, the PNG Law Society. This moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, I may be gone tomorrow. Some of us may be gone tomorrow. But this is a seed that you planted. If the majority of the Papua New Guineans are silenced and they cannot be able to speak for them by legislation, if you're suppressing them to come and speak up for themselves, you and I were educated by the taxpayers of Papua New Guinea. My father was a medical orderly. He was a Lutheran pastor in the 1930s. And he became a medical orderly. He worked 24/7. He'll be taking his medicine to, very remote places to serve other people, not for the fun of money, but the fun of their happiness was his joy. So why not? Because I'm educated by them. I was educated by the taxpayers. My father couldn't afford it. Most of you are seated here today. So we have a duty. We have a responsibility, the duty of care to this independent state of Papua New Guinea. Most of us, we have children who are now going to law school. Our fathers, did well to put us in the space and time we are. And the question is, what have we done with the blessing that we have in our moment, in our space and time? So ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow colleagues, what I'd like to encourage us all is continue to do what is right. And I'd like to commend the speakers here, the president. The president, let me say this. It's unprecedented, you see. We had, in the past, the Law Society as a professional organization has never come out with the kind of leadership that is provided. Any great organizations that you have is driven by the people with the motivation, the aspiration, who wants to create difference in the lives of other people. Hubert Namani, he's got a law practice. He's a senior practitioner. He's been on board members, but he doesn't think about his personal preservation. We must applaud him for that. Okay? We know. Those people who are in authority, please let me encourage you. This government that you are occupying is government of the people, by the people, for the people. You have a fiduciary duty. Okay? You have a fiduciary duty. It doesn't belong to you. It is our power. Because of the system of government that we inherited, we are placing this, our hope and our aspiration, in your hands. Do it right by us. You're not going to expect all these, maths and all that. Why should we be coming here wasting our time when you run the country the way it should be, for the people, by the people, of the people? But you are giving us reasons why. That's why we are coming here, I don't have much of a hair up here, but I don't want to wear a cap coming here. We have to sacrifice some things, to feel the heat of it for our people. So that's why I'd like to say thank you very much to our senior practitioners, Mr. Rignan, Mr. Kubak, President, and Mr. Dennison. Mr. Dennison, you see, he's very tall. He can't hide. He's very tall. And he's the only white man who was here. Why he's doing that, we must understand and appreciate and give him credit. Why? Because he is a member of the Commonwealth Society of Nations. And I also acknowledge the presence of our former Attorney General, Alfred Manasseh, seated there, Dr. Lomai. There are very few of us who are, we call ourselves senior lawyers. A lot of you, who came after us, we're not going to be here forever. But I'd like you to continue that the momentum that is created by the leadership of our President, Hubert Namani. So that in the future, I want more professionals. If the people cannot participate, if they're suppressing them, the legislation that we have that says that you have to give get approval and authority for good reasons, because the opportunists, they use this opportunity to help themselves. But in a way, I see there's these guys too, you call it the rights regulated. Yes, it's not a right to, it's absolute right. You can regulate it. But in my view, personal view, it's it's becoming restrictive. So then we have to create avenues for people to not vent their frustrations, but talk about such issues like this. And law society is creating these impurities, I'd like to think that. So next year, let us cross-fertilize with the accounting professionals, engineering professionals, business institutions. Let's talk together and let's try to, extend that opportunity for consultation, discussion, dissemination of information, education, all that. We must do it because this is a country that provides you opportunity. You can't go to Australia, I'm telling you, and acquire land in Australia or in Philippines or in America. They'll put you on the next plane, send you back here. This is the country that we have. We must proudly protect it, and the rule of law, it provides that opportunity for us all. Sorry, I said I'll be short, but you gave me the opportunity. And you all know we litigation lawyers, we like to talk. I'm not listening to the echo of my speech, but I'd like to say thank you very much. I've seen a good number of lawyers coming in. You are serious. Let's keep this banning and let's make it bigger and better. If we do it this year again, then it will be good in a controlled environment, and we continue to hold the government accountable. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Gilling. Our last and final speaker will be Mr. Ralph Sauleb. If I could ask you to come forward.
Good morning, one and all. Mr. President and your team at PNG Law Society, thank you very much again on behalf of all the members for organizing this event. This is the second year running. And I'm really happy and proud to see that many of our lawyers are here present. And I repeat the acknowledgements to the esteemed members as mentioned by the previous speakers. And thank you for gracing us with your presence today. I just want to reflect on some personal thoughts to share with you as we close today. Because I've regularly watched the contributions that every member
in our group has posted on WhatsApp. Some of them good, or most of them are good, but some of them challenge others to say, let's stop talking and let's make things happen. Let's take action for what we believe in. And that's what I would like to leave you with some thoughts today as my personal contribution to today. I'm a great supporter of this, the march last year and also for this year. So I'm delighted to see that our leadership has arranged this for this year as well. Let me just remind you on something that is regularly repeated on social media by those of us that believe in the rule of law and its protection. And that is that when you're silent, your silence is part of the erosion of the rule of law. I want you all to live today with that in your mind. Your silence and the lack to take action is part of the process by which the rule of law is eroded. So we must stand up and speak. And I think you will all know, if you've seen social media, that a lot of activities that are happening across the country, initiated by our government, has created an environment of fear, an environment of concern for the rule of law in this country. I want to just leave you with two examples of what I mean by that. You're all lawyers, so you'll know what I'm saying. The first is that those of you who are litigating will need to apply to the court to amend the title of the state to the independent Christian state of Papua New Guinea. It is no longer the state of Papua New Guinea. It is the independent Christian state of Papua New Guinea. You need to go and apply and amend the title to the parties' names if you are involved in those proceedings, because that's what we are. It's not Hindu state of Papua New Guinea. It's not Islamic state of Papua New Guinea. It's not Hare Krishna or some other name. It is the Christian state of Papua New Guinea. So many of you, Council, and I challenge you to think about this, may think that that is not such a big thing to worry about. But let me tell you this, our constitution named the state of Papua New Guinea, and it has legitimacy internationally and existed as such for 50 years. So if you think it's an innocent change, you need to ask yourself why that is so. We have existed as the independent state of Papua New Guinea for 50 years. This is the golden jubilee of Papua New Guinea this year. Why do we need to change it to an independent Christian state of Papua New Guinea? Ever think about that? That's my challenge to you today. It may be the start of something a bit more sinister than what you might like to acknowledge somewhere down the track. Keep that in mind and watch that space, because some things may happen. We may begin to isolate people who are Islamists. We may begin to isolate people who have no faith at all. That if you're a person who does not profess to a God, you will be excluded. That might be what it means, we don't know. So it's not as innocent on the face of it as it seems. So that's my caution to you. Please have a look at that. The second thing is this, that we are a democratic country and we believe in the rule of law. But the biggest structure, the biggest system, the biggest process we have to protect the integrity of rule of law is the ability to go to the court and say, I disagree with what the government has said. I disagree with what the minister has said. I disagree with what the head of a statutory organization has said. I want it in court and I want the court to rule on it. So we as lawyers, we are used to that. But those of you that challenge NEC decisions may want to go back and look at the proposed NEC Act that has gone through the second reading, and I don't know whether it's gone through the third reading or not. But no decision of the National Executive Council after this law is passed will be justiciable. No court of law will have a right to scrutinize and review a decision of the NEC. Now, I don't know about you, I'm just expressing to you what my view is. My suspicion is that that is the beginning and part of the process of the erosion of rule of law. Because there is only one entity in this country that I rely upon when I want to insist on the rights of my client, and that is to be able to go to court, to have an impartial judge preside over my matter and deliberate on it. If I can't do that, there is no hope. Because no one else is impartial to deliberate and make a decision on the grievances of my client. This is a dangerous development, and I call it out. As a practitioner and a person who believes in the rule of law in this country, I call this out, that legislation is dangerous for this country. And I want the Law Society to continue its efforts to bring this to the attention of the public. Protests are not allowed, as you all know. And that is why I so strongly support the Law Society in its initiative in this respect. So can I just end with a few suggestions? Number one, I would like our march to become an annual event from here on. That's number one. Number two, I'd like the PNG Law Society to, again, echoing the words of Senior Counsel Gileng, that we collaborate with the other professional institutions like the engineers and the doctors, and perhaps, and again this is a matter for the leadership of the society to consider, perhaps we can introduce an annual symposium ourselves, the lawyers, and we can have many more speakers on selected topics so people can express what they believe in. But the other thing also to remember is that we used to have what was called the Melanesian Journal, which was an official publication of the law faculty, and that allowed professional lawyers or lawyers who are interested in contributing articles on law to publish their material and their academic investigations. That is no longer the case because I think the journal has somehow disappeared, and for that reason, to have an annual symposium might be one way of enabling many other lawyers to contribute what knowledge they have to the propagation and the support of the rule of law. That would be my suggestion. I will finish by saying this. I echo the words of my two senior brothers that have gone, Mr. Kubak and Mr. Gileng, and of course my president from the Catholic professionals, Mr. Harrington. Thank you for your comments. This year we'll see two representatives from our society represent our society in the international community at the symposium at the conference in Malta. And our president, Mr. Namani, and the head of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association in Papua New Guinea, Mr. Denniston, they will travel to Malta to represent us. And I want to express our goodwill and Godspeed to the two of them to represent our country in Malta. And I'm particularly happy and proud to note that this is the first time, at least in my knowledge, that Papua New Guinea is sending a delegation to represent us in a foreign country in a conference that relates to the rule of law. So I'm delighted. I want to end here, but can I just say that I look at the young faces that are here today, and let me tell you that when independence came, I was a 15-year-old kid in high school. And many of you that are here, you were not even born at that stage. And there was a high level of enthusiasm and exuberance in the country because we were achieving political independence. Now, 50 years down the track, when I look back, I compared the exuberance and the excitement I felt as a high school kid at that stage in 1975. And I look at what is going on in the government. As Mr. Kileng said, this should be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. When I look at what is happening now in the current circumstances, I notice with great concern the breakdown of the checks and balances that are the hallmark of democracy. They have broken down by leaders who are committed to dismantling the very systems, the very institutions that we rely on to maintain democracy in this country. That is not a simple statement. Think about it. I thank you all for being here today, and please let's join together to fight and protect the rule of law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saulep. I have been asked by President Namani just to extend an invite to any of our female colleagues. If any one of you wants to say something, I'm extending the invitation for you to come up and say something, if there's anyone. All right. In that case, if there's no one else, then what I will do now is just to say, which is the easy part, that we have now come to the end of our program. But what I would like to do is firstly to acknowledge again you all, our senior members and not so new members of our profession. I would like to thank you all very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. And to deal with what we have dealt with this morning. Just an announcement again that there's going to be lunch that's being served to my my left here. If you have not gotten your food and drink tickets, please speak to Margaret of the Papua New Guinea Law Society. And finally, just to wrap it up, on behalf of President Namani and the Council of the Papua New Guinea Law Society, Secretary of our society, Mr. Tanubasa, and members of our staff, we'd like to thank you all very much again for attending today, and we wish you all a blessed day today. Thank you all. Sorry, lunch it's on its way, so if I could just ask us all to mingle and chat whilst we wait for lunch to come. Thank you very much.
Rachel, MC.